triathlete for a long time, and she has recently become pro, got her pro card. Yay! And Sam approached our team and asked if she could work with us because she really liked the things we were doing and the fact that we are an organization that encourages beginners and it tries to welcome everyone. And so I was really super pleased that she approached us and wanted to be a part of this. And so this is her she did a lot of work on this, and I'm really excited that she came to present because I can't think of anyone better to teach us about race day nutrition than a physician who happens to be a pro triathlete as well. So thank you very much for coming, and I'll let her talk.
Okay, I hate public speaking, so bear with me. So this is on race day nutrition. So who am I? My first career is as a first-year psychiatry resident. I have a doctorate of osteopathic medicine. Graduated from Michigan State University College of Osteopathic Medicine. I was also accepted into the psychiatry program at Michigan State. I do not have a degree in nutrition. There is not a lot of nutrition education in medical school. So this is more from my personal experience as a triathlete and what I've looked up online, especially when it comes to long course racing. I have no experience in long course racing, so this is what I looked up. So my other career is a professional triathlete. I earned my elite license, also known as a pro card, in August of 2013 after winning the Chicago Triathlon. Shortly after, I applied to a professional triathlon team, which is a faith-based team called Try for Him, and I was offered a spot on the team, which I took. So this photo is from the Chicago Triathlon, right as I was crossing the finish line and looking all great with that wonderful running form, and realized that I had earned an award. So I was originally a soccer player, so I'm going to move over here so I can see everyone. Okay. So I played in college as well as for a semi-pro team in Flint. I had a lot of concussions and injuries, which led to bone chips in my ankle, and I've had hip surgery. So there were a lot of issues with playing soccer. It's a pretty rough sport. But it did give me a good cardio base, and I got very large quads from it. So. Earning a pro card wasn't something I ever even thought about until 2012. So I started to have dreams of becoming a pro, but never something that I thought would actually ever happen in a million years. I always thought that, I always tell people now I'm not very far from being an amateur because I was literally an amateur like 7.5 months ago. So I held my pro card for 7 months. And I didn't just pop into the sport and start being awesome. Not that I am awesome, but I didn't just like start out looking good or anything. It was filled with lots of mistakes, like not pulling my swim cap over my ears. I started out wearing a road bike with smiley face socks. So this is from my first triathlon, which I did with my dad in 2007, and it was Hawkeye. That's where I got addicted to triathlon. So I've been through a number of coaches, but I ended up finding an amazing coach who, while working with her, I started racing much better and finally realized that a pro card could maybe happen. But when it happened in 2013, that was a shock even to my coach. We really didn't think it would happen that soon, so this all kind of came on suddenly. But for me, the key was to find the right coach. Before her, I'd had 3 different coaches, some of them lasting like a couple weeks even. So I think nutrition is similar. For every athlete, it's kind of a changing thing, and it can easily change from one year to the next. So don't get stuck in any one thing. So this is the common rules of nutrition. I tried to put funny little pictures in between to lighten it up. I just saw that one online. I have no idea what's going on. So rule number 1 is to rest and refuel 24, that's supposed to be 48 hours. I swear I spell check it, but sometimes things happen. So I'm not really good at drinking water or staying hydrated because I really like Diet Pop. That's a problem that I'm working on. I switched to soda stream with Crystal Light. Works for me, so. But a few days before the race, I would really try to focus on drinking not just water, but an electrolyte drink. And I would focus on eating more carbs than usual and stay away from milk and fatty foods because they can upset my stomach and lead to bathroom problems, which is probably like the most important thing on race morning is the bathroom. So don't eat foods that you know will upset your stomach the day before the race. So for me, I stay away from spicy foods, Mexican, Middle Eastern. You should probably stay away from sushi. And I stick to boring things like a turkey sandwich and pasta. practice your race day nutrition during training. So this one is really important, especially if you're doing longer workouts. That's a perfect time to practice your nutrition. Like long bikes on the weekend is perfect, especially long breaks, because you have to run afterwards. So you can kind of get away with an upset stomach on the bike, not so good on the run. So take notes of when I need my nutrition during my long breaks. And I found out how much food is okay with me before a race and how much nutrition to take during a race. But again, that seems to always be changing. So don't worry if you don't hit it out of the park on your first try. I have a workout log that I fill out, and I'm sure there's multiple workouts where I was like, yeah, I totally bombed, completely missed the mark on my nutrition. Stomach was upset the whole time, went running and I could hear the sloshing in my stomach. So it's never perfect the first time. Number 3 is to stick with your plan on race day. So don't switch your nutrition up the night before just because it's something that you heard about at an expo. It can be an option down the road, but for that race, stick with what you know. And don't be afraid to have a backup plan. So I always have an extra glue on my bike, so if I start feeling flat towards the end, then I can take it. Because sometimes your nutrition the week leading up to the race can still affect your race. So if I hadn't really eaten enough during the week, I'll start to get tired towards the end of the bike. And your body will never be exactly the same every single race. So have options available, but again, those options need to be tested. And the key is to be prepared. So always keep extra bars or gels, whichever you like to use, or both, in your bag at all times. And if you're racing in a small town, these can be really hard to find. And even if you're racing where there's an expo, they mark up the prices and you can be paying like $3 for that Clif bar. So always be prepared. So this is my examples of very triathletes. I'm pretty goofy. I don't think I take very many serious pictures. So that's my husband. He's my little laser pointer. This is my husband, and this is my dad. So Todd Kennedy is my husband, and he has the strangest eating habits I've ever seen. But I found a lot of young men in triathlon can get away with this. It's really not fair. So a lot of times he'll go to morning workouts without eating anything. I think he went to our 90-minute run this morning without eating anything. And 2 out of 5 times he'll tell me later that he got lightheaded, so eat breakfast. He isn't as crazy as I am with a specific race day schedule, which you'll see in a little bit, and his stomach isn't as sensitive as mine. We'll eat 1 to 2 Clif bars in the morning, depending on if he's hungry. But I think he chose Clif bars because it's what I use, so they're at the apartment and he doesn't have to buy them. He will also usually have toast with peanut butter. I recommend white toast for race mornings. The final thing that he does that's really important is he'll have pop with caffeine. He never drinks caffeine during the week, so caffeine on race morning has a big effect for him. And for the race, he'll have 2 goos on his bike, and he uses 2 water bottles, 1 with water and 1 with heat for Olympic distance. And for sprint distance, he'll use just 1 bottle of heat. He likes heat because it agrees with his stomachs. When he has cramps and he drinks a little bit of heat, they'll resolve pretty quickly. But he also warned me not to dump heat on your head, which he has done a couple of times, as opposed to just once at the aid station. It can sometimes look like water. So David Fugate is my dad, and he has struggled for a long time with nutrition. And for years, he would have to pull over his car on the way home from races and start throwing up. That's pretty not fun, and then you can't have like that awesome bad guilty lunch after racing. Exactly. So I started to look into his nutrition and found out he wasn't eating anything at all before racing. Then he'd borrow glue from me and fill his bottles with G2, and that never really worked out at all. I asked him why he wasn't eating before races, and he said he didn't like how bars tasted. So we tried a bunch of different bars, and he ended up really liking the Snickers Marathon bar. We'll get into that bar later. So he would eat that before races. He continued with the G2 in his bottle and was still getting an upset stomach on the run. So we added more calories to his morning and took away the calories on the bike completely because they would always upset his stomach. But he still wanted an electrolyte replacement. He also has weakness for Diet Pop. That's probably where I got my weakness. So we chose Noon and Cola flavor. So no more post-race roadside stops, and now we get burgers after races. So it works out much better for me. So this is me, and I have an extremely sensitive stomach. And on race morning, I'm so nervous that I don't want to eat at all, and eating doesn't sound good to me. So this is my pre-race routine, and this, besides looking very busy, has given me just a sense of being organized and maybe a little bit more calm. So it looks pretty busy, but here's my laser pointer here. I wake up, I do my pre-race run, then I eat a Cliff Bar and a bagel, put my legs up, relax, usually visualize. Then we head to the race site. I set up my transition, 20-minute pre-race warm-up bike. Then I double-check my transition area and jog the flow a couple times. Get in my wetsuit, head to the water for a quick warm-up swim. I take my goo and some water. And my routine is I hand my empty goo packet to my mom, get some last-minute good luck wishes. And then I bones my dad, the little fist humpy thing, and my husband. And if they're not there, then I'll call them instead, and then it's FaceTime. So I decided on Cliff Bars because I think they're tasty. So that's kind of the theme that you'll notice is going with what is tasty. So I practice by eating a Cliff Bar before every morning workout, 6 to 7 days a week. And a single Cliff Bar wasn't enough for me before races, so I added something to eat. I love bagels, so that was another easy choice. So even though my stomach was upset and I was nervous, if I pick things that I like, I'm more inclined to eat them.
What flavors of Cliff Bars do you go for?
I like the chocolate coconut. It's my favorite. And then
The peanut butter ones are nasty.
yeah, no, I have to have like some flavor in there and the sugar. I'm addicted to sugar too, so yeah, I like a little bit more flavor, and the chocolate ones just seem a little bit too plain. So I like the coconut. And then during the race, 2 to 3 goos on my bike. That third one is that backup. First goo after 7 to 10 miles, second one after 20 or 22 miles. Then I still have a little bit of room to decide if I want to take a third one. The nutrition is always changing. So I joined this pro team, and we use a product called Generation You Can, which I get for free. So that kind of made that decision for me, like I said earlier, at 4. So. But I continue to implement the same principle, Generation You Can before every single workout. And then if we're doing long workouts, yesterday we did a 3-hour brick, so I had it twice during the workout. So same principle of practicing your nutrition always. My fluid of choice prior to this year was Guru. I had a sponsorship with them. Didn't renew for 2014 because of the new sponsorship. And I originally chose Guru because I wanted to get a few more calories during the bike and electrolytes. Besides gels, I'm not really a chewer of the chops, those things, so that I feel like I can't breathe when I'm chewing. So I prefer to take in my calories by a gel, which you can swallow pretty quickly, or fluid. So I don't take any nutrition at all during the run. My stomach gets too upset with it. But I always grab 2 cups of water at every aid station, one that I kind of throw out my mouth and hopefully get a little bit in my mouth, and one that I pour on my head. So this is comparison of different fluids, gels, bars, and chews. That's my snakes on each. So what I'll cover here is different flavors that different products offer. Price, because triathlon's already expensive, so that can sometimes come into play. Key ingredients, so kind of more the key sugars, and a chart comparing calories, carbs, sugar, sodium, and potassium. So the key ingredients, like I said, it's the primary forms of sugar, because there's different forms of sugar that some people are more sensitive to than others. So maltodextrin, and I won't go into all of this. I think they have the slides. So you can kind of...
We'll get you copies of the slides,
Okay.
so don't worry about writing all of it down.
Yeah, don't try to write this off. So this maltodextrin is a good one. It's easily digestible. It's made of rice, corn, or potato starch, and it's rapidly metabolized, which is really good. But too much of it can cause pressure in the GI tract, and then you get a stomach full of water, and that takes the water away from your muscles, and then you get dehydrated. Fructose is what is found in fruits. Naturally, it's components of sucrose. Doesn't contribute to a feeling of fullness, so it's bad if you're not working out, but it's good if you're exercising intensely, because then you don't get that really heavy, full feeling. But some people do not tolerate it very well, and it can lead to bloating and diarrhea. Sucrose is table sugar, so it's made up of 1 part of glucose and 1 part of fructose, and it facilitates fluid uptake across cell membranes. But too much, again, will slow gastric emptying, so then you'll end up with a heavy stomach. And this is also cane sugar. Then glucose is what's found in your blood, and it provides energy for the muscles and the brain. And stores of glucose are limited in the body, so it's good to replenish during a high-intensity exercise, but it's only broken down through one pathway. So it's good to have a second type of sugar with glucose, so you can utilize 2 pathways at once. So it's also known as dextrose. These are all sugar alcohols or artificial sweeteners, so xylitol, sorbitol, and sucralose. Xylitol is a sugar alcohol, and it's incompletely absorbed, so you want to be careful with all of these, really. Sorbitol is a sugar alcohol. It's absorbed slowly and used as a sweetener, and sucralose is an artificial sweetener. It's not really broken down by the body, so it doesn't really do a whole lot of good, but it can sit in the GI tract and lead to upset stomachs. And then I'll send Kathy an email with copies of all the links, because I would want to type that in, so that way she can email it to you guys and you can just click on them. So comparison of different fluids. So Heed, and I don't know why my title didn't come up, but Heed comes in lemon, lime, mandarin orange, melon, and strawberry. It's about $18 for 16 servings, and it has maltodextrin and xylitol. And this is the one that my husband really likes. I was never really a big fan of Heed. I thought it had like a weird sweet flavor. Maybe it's because of the xylitol, but a lot of people do seem to like it. And it's relatively good price. Goo Electrolyte Brew comes in blueberry, pomegranate, orange, lemon, lime, and raspberry. And it's $25.20 for 35 servings. So again, a good price. Maltodextrin and fructose. That's another reason why I chose it. So there's no sugar alcohols. It's two natural forms of sugar. And then I would always use the blueberry pomegranate because it has a much higher concentration of sodium, and I'm a pretty salty sweater, so that was always a good option for me. Goo Roctane is their endurance drink, and it comes in lemon, lime, tropical fruit, and grape, and it's quite a bit more expensive, $27 for 12 servings. Again, it has the two natural forms of sugar, and they do have flavors with caffeine, and caffeine during racing can boost performance. Nude has a lot of different flavors. You can find just about any flavor you like. $24 for 12 tablets, so $2 a tablet. The key ingredient is sorbitol, so there is no actual natural sugars in there, and it is like 7 calories a tablet, so there really isn't much nutritional value at all. There are a couple flavors with caffeine, the cherry limeade, Coca-Cola, and the lemon tea.
So with the Nude, you're getting electrolytes, the caffeine, but you're not getting any sugars to fuel your body.
Yep, no fuel at all in Nude, just electrolyte replacement. So it's more useful for, I use it sometimes when I swim, because pools at the YMCA can be pretty hot, so I use it for electrolyte replacement when I swim. I don't use it at all during racing. My dad uses it because he can't tolerate calories, but he's spiky or level. So for him, it works out well, but definitely if you're going to be using Nude, I would have plenty of gels or chews. So Gatorade it comes in a bunch of different flavors. It's about $1 per bottle at Meijer, and it's sugar and dextrose are the key ingredients. And Gatorade is, I know, a big powerhouse for nutrition. They're pretty popular and out there in a lot of different sports. They have a lot of ads, but as far as endurance fuel, I'm not really 100% sold on it. I've talked to a lot of people who get upset stomachs with it. So if it works for you for racing, great. I use G2 for the day before just because it's tasty and good, but it has a lot of ingredients. If you look at the ingredient label, it's much longer than any of the other fluids. So I think it's a lot of those ingredients that make it so they can keep it in this bottle and it has a long shelf life that can upset people's stomachs. So it's a pretty processed fluid. So G2 has a bunch of flavors. There's probably more than that. That's just the ones that they have listed online. And G2 has sugar and sucralose, so sugar and then a sugar alcohol. That's how it has less calories. So I'd be careful with any of those. If they don't upset your stomach, then great. It's a good, cheap option, but if they do, then I'd definitely stay away from it on race day. Infinite makes a number of different formulas depending on what each athlete prefers, and you can also make your own. For this presentation, I use the speed form. It's pretty expensive, $35 for 20 servings, but it does have 3 forms of sugar, so it utilizes 3 different pathways. I've never used it before, and I know Kathy isn't a huge fan of it, so if you wanted to try it, go for it.
I think Steve, you've used it too.
I used to use it. It just got to be too expensive. But it was nice that I could adjust the formula. That was the big thing.
You can adjust, you can go on and basically they ask you questions about the way you work out, how much you sweat, and you can put in your parameters on, you know, would you like to take in more calories from your liquid, that kind of stuff, and they'll alter the actual product for you and send a specific product. My issue with it was more of a taste and consistency. For me, it was kind of like a thin pudding, and I didn't take in enough because I didn't enjoy it, and so there's no point in having a nutrition that you don't take in enough of. But some people really, really like it, so I wanted to make sure to include it in the
There are lots of
presentation.
people who do really like it, so, you know, if you want to try it, go for it. I'm sure, I'm not sure if it comes in single serve packets, but an expo it might be there or something, but definitely, again, taste is a big theme here. If you don't like how it tastes, you're not going to use it, and then it's kind of pointless to have it anyway. So other forms of Infinite include a GoFar version, which has 280 calories per serving, so that's kind of more their endurance formula. A Jet Fuel, which adds 125 milligrams of caffeine, and quite a bit of caffeine, so be careful with that much caffeine. The Isis Hydration is formulated for women. Not really sure what makes a drink formulated for women. Sometimes they say like this bar is for women and it has like folate in it. I'm like, why do I need to eat a bar with folate for pregnancy when I'm trying to work out? So, not really sure about women formulas. And then an Isis Endurance, 250 calories. So we are done with the little calories. Yes. So delicate. So kind of a new one out there now is Scratch Labs. Comes in pineapple, raspberry, lemon, lime, and orange. $20 for 20 scoops. Key ingredients are cane sugar and dextrose, so again, utilizing multiple pathways with natural sugars. So here's your comparison. And I tried to make them more like similar serving sizes, but that's about a scoop for each. So you can see the different calories, and again, Noon has less than 8 calories per tab, so not really any nutritional value there. Total carbs, so again, Noon has less than a gram of carbs, so you're not really going to get any fuel. G2, 7 grams of carbs, so if you're looking for more energy, I'd stick more in the 20 carb range. Sugar, kind of all over the place. If you're looking for something less sugary, there's Speed, which I don't know why it always tastes so sugary to me when there's 2 grams of sugar in it, but it does. So Gatorade, again, has a lot of sugar. Sodium, you're looking for different amounts of sodium if you're a salty sweater. Guru was one of the reasons why I chose, because it had so much sodium. And then potassium, it helps with muscle cramping. So again, I mean, Noon has a lot of both sodium and potassium, but no carbs or calories. So just kind of based off of what you think you need. If you end up cramping a lot, or if you're a salty sweater, you can kind of refer to that. And then keep in mind the prices for what you can afford, and then taste it, see how you like it. So a comparison of different gels. It's a little cartoon. I like that one. Goo is the first one, but it comes in a lot of different flavors, so that's a pretty big bonus. You can probably find out of all of those one that you like. It's about $32 for 24 gel packets if you order it online. I think if you're buying it in stores, it's more expensive. Maltodextrin and fructose, so again, 2 natural forms of sugar utilizing 2 pathways. Caffeine, there's a couple of different formulas that have 20 milligrams of caffeine, and then a couple that have 40 milligrams of caffeine. Depending on how caffeine sensitive you are, if you really don't take in much caffeine at all, and stay away from the higher caffeine quantities, because if you take in a lot of caffeine when you're not used to having caffeine, you're going to feel like your heart is exploding. So that's bad. Goo Roctane comes in a couple of different flavors. It's more expensive at $54 for 24 gel packs. Again, 2 key ingredients, or 2 natural forms of sugars. Caffeine, they have forms that come in 35 milligrams. I used Goo Roctane for a while because I was like, yeah, Roctane, it's like jet fuel or something. But I really don't see a whole lot of big differences between Roctane and regular, except quite the price tag difference. So Power Bar Gel comes in a couple of different flavors. Decent price, $30 for 24 packets, and you can find it at Meijer, so that's kind of a plus. Maltodextrin and fructose, so 2 sugar forms, natural sugars, utilizing 2 pathways. Caffeine, you've got 25 milligrams in some of your forms, and then 50 milligrams. So again, if you're caffeine naive, stay away from the 50 milligrams. Cliff Shot, they have a couple of different flavors, $30 for 24 packets, and I think that's again if you order it offline. Maltodextrin and cane sugar, 2 natural sugars, 2 pathways, 100 milligrams of caffeine in their chocolate cherry double espresso. Please stay away from that if you're caffeine naive. 50 milligrams of mocha and 25 in citrus and strawberry.
That's what
This is what I mean. There's a lot of caffeine here. So if you do drink a lot of caffeine every day, if you have like a pot of coffee every day, you will need more caffeine to feel any effects. So that's about the highest concentration of caffeine in any of these gels. So that would be your go-to if you're a big caffeine drinker. The Infinite Napalm. So they have orange, creamsicle, and grape, and both are available in highly caffeinated forms. The highly caffeinated forms have 75 milligrams of caffeine. So your Cliff Shot with 100 milligrams has more. And the price is not bad, $40 or 35 servings, but that's because it doesn't come in individual serving packets that you can take on your bike or something. You're going to have to get a little bottle and mix it. It just kind of comes in this baggie that you can squeeze out or something. I'm not really sure. I've never used it. But they have a lot of different forms of sugar. Maltodextrin, dextrose, sucrose, and fructose. So I don't necessarily know physiologically if having 4 different forms of sugar would make that big of a difference. So
And those are all natural ones, those 4 kinds, right?
I'm pretty sure, yes. Yes, sucrose would be table sugar. So those are all 4 natural sugars. Although fructose is a component of sucrose. So yeah, but I believe there's, trying to think back to my first 2 years of medical school, I believe there's 3 different forms, or 3 different pathways for breaking down sugar, so I'm not really sure 4 different forms, if that would end up upsetting someone's stomach, or what would happen there, so.
They probably had to list fructose separately because they have high fructose corn syrup in it, and as opposed to just being straight sucrose.
So try it, see if it works if you want. I don't know if you could just try a little bit somewhere if you have to buy the whole bag for $40. So, but that's Infinite Napalm. Honey Stinger Energy Gels. This brand is kind of an interesting idea to me because their key ingredient is honey. So it's all completely natural. They have a couple of different flavors. $32.40 for 24 gels. The Gin Sting contains 32 milligrams of caffeine, so not super huge, so that's good. And I've had one of these before, and they taste really, really, really good. Because you're basically sucking down honey. So that's kind of an interesting idea to me. So if you're really looking for natural products, this would be about as natural as you can get. So
So Sam, why not just go with honey?
you could do that too.
There are people like
Yeah, I'm sure in those little squeeze bottles you can just throw a bunch of honey in there. I guess there are a few claims there that they do throw some vitamins, and I'm not sure how much sodium and potassium there is in pure honey. So that's probably something that they add in because they do have quite a bit of potassium. Not a ton of sodium, but that'd certainly be something to look into, and it'd probably be a lot cheaper. So your calories for these gels per serving are normally all around 100 calories. Carbs are about the same, in the 20s. Sugars depends. I like Honey Stingers, pure sugar. So sodium, if you're a salty person. So there's your big difference between goo octane and goo is the sodium. But if you're also having an electrolyte drink, you don't want to over sodium, especially for someone who does short course racing like I do. And then potassium. So you can kind of compare and look back and see what you need and what is tasty to you and what doesn't upset your stomach. So comparison of different shoes. That hasn't happened to me, but I would probably be pretty upset if it did. So Cliff Shot Blocks. Since I can't see my cool little notes that I had, one thing that I wanted to say about shoes, besides the fact that I can't do it because I feel like I'm choking when I'm trying to chew something when I'm racing, most of them or all of them have this organic tapioca syrup, which kind of gives it the consistency. Like I said, I have a very sensitive stomach, and it seemed to me like whenever I used chews, there were a lot of bathroom trips during morning runs. So that's something I'd be wary of if that's something that happens to you. Probably not the best idea for race day because it's inconvenient to have to go to the back and then they'll race. So just something to be aware of. So Cliff Black shots. They have some pretty good flavors. I think they're tasty, but again, I get bathroom issues. About $36 for 18 packs, which have 6 pieces each. Key ingredients, you get your organic tapioca sugar, your organic dried cane syrup, and your organic maltodextrin. And that's kind of one of Cliff's claims to fame. If you want to put it that way, is they're mostly organic. I think their Cliff bars say they're like 80% organic or something. I'm not really sure what that means, but caffeine, you've got 25 milligrams and 50 milligrams in a couple of days. And the margarita version, which would probably make me puke on race day, has 3 times sodium. So,
That's a beverage you have every day.
yeah, I mean, if that's
you're
your
not-
drink of
I'm
choice.
training with it.
Not margarita naive, you know.
So for you guys asking about honey, in 1 cup of honey, so a lot of honey, there's only 14 milligrams of sodium and 176 milligrams of potassium, so not a lot. That's simple.
So sprinkle your table salt into your honey, and then it'll taste really good.
Yummy.
So, Goo Chomps, which I had tried using for a while again because I had the Goo sponsorship, and I'd take them before morning runs, and then always like a couple miles in, we'd be running to Myers to use the vacuum at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So make sure that's something you check before using them race morning. They are pretty tasty, $31.75 for 16 packs. Again, tapioca sugar, cane syrup, and maltodextrin. So they do have the 2 forms of sugar. So, and then a couple of their versions have caffeine, 20 milligrams and 40 milligrams. So not too much caffeine there. Power Bar Performance Energy Blast. These are really tasty. Which I don't know if that means they're good endurance product or not, but they are tasty. They have that little like liquid core. It's pretty good. I've never used them for training though. I've just eaten them at expos or something like that. So they have cola, lemon, orange, raspberry, strawberry, banana. $23.88 for 12 packs. Again, the nice thing about Power Bar is you can find them in most grocery stores like Meijer and Kroger. Sugar, glucose, and invert sugar. I don't really know what invert sugar is, but it sounds pretty processed, so that would be something I'd be careful of. And they do have 2 forms of caffeine, 37 milligrams in the cola and 20 in the strawberry banana. But definitely practice that.
Googling.
Yeah, someone Google invert sugar
In-class
for me.
research.
The teacher.
So the Gatorade Primes, this is kind of the new thing that you've probably seen on the Gatorade commercials. This is their big new thing. The one thing that I would really warn you about is it's $44 for 16 packages. That's a lot of money. And if you look at their ingredients, I only put 3 ingredients on there. So corn syrup, sugar, and isomaltulose. They don't have the tapioca sugar in there, or the tapioca syrup. But if you look at their whole ingredient list again, it is pretty long. That's kind of an issue I found with Gatorade is there's a lot of ingredients and it's pretty processed stuff. And they don't have any forms of caffeine. So I haven't tried it, probably because it's so expensive and like I said, I'm poor. So I don't know, this one's kind of, if you want to try it, go for it, but it is quite expensive. It has some interesting ingredients, so I would be cautious about it though. So Honey Stinger Energy Chews, they have a couple of different, very delicious flavors. $27 for 12 packets, so not bad. Again, we're back to the organic tapioca syrup, evaporated cane juice, juice concentrate, and honey. They do have a form with caffeine, and I haven't used these for training because now I stay away from all chews with training, but they are really tasty. So if chews are your thing, I did really like those. So the comparison of different chews, the calories, I made it so in this chart so it'd be close comparison for the breakdown of the nutrients in it, so it's all around 100 calories. And Gatorade, you get 100 calories in that entire really expensive pack. So in that entire, I don't know the breakdown of parts, it's only 100 calories, whereas you see in the other ones, for about half of their pouch, you get that 100 calories. So not only are those Gatorade chews really, really expensive, you're only getting half as many calories, so they're really, really, really expensive.
Well, we were talking about too, like the Blue Chomp specifically, it's a big package, like you would
Yeah.
have to be willing to repackage, because there's no way you're gonna carry a package this big
Yeah.
in your shorts or something, or
I don't know where
on
you
your body, or
carry
in your
it.
bento bag even, because it's a lot. So some of these things you actually have to think about convenience too during your race, whether or not you're gonna need to repackage it the night before into smaller quantities that you would actually consume.
Yeah, and like I said, I've never used these during racing. I used to use them during training, like if I was wearing a bike jersey and shove them in a bike pouch. But yeah, they come in pretty hefty size bags, and especially like the honey stinger, you can see that's a pretty big bag, so you're definitely going to have to repackage. And the Gatorade chews come in this infuriating looking box. So I would certainly repackage that before racing with it, because I'd be like on my back, like trying to teach, and then I'd fall. So carbs are all about the same, a little bit less carbs than the honey stinger chews, but they do only have 80 calories in half their packet. Sugars are all about the same. Sodium kind of ranges. You only get 15 milligrams of sodium with Power Bar and no potassium with Power Bar. So, like I said, I use Blue Chomps 50 and 40. Not bad, but I would definitely practice with them first. So comparison of different bars. This is Snoopy's version of triathlon. Sometimes that's my version of triathlon too. So on bars, note about the key ingredients, there are a lot more ingredients than in fluids, gels, and chews. I tried to pick some ingredients that seemed like they were the key, but definitely read the whole package if you're concerned about any of the ingredients or looking for something specific to stay away from. So Bonk Breaker Energy Bars. This is kind of a newer bar that's out there. They've got a number of good flavors. They're kind of claim to fame as being more natural and the world's best energy bar. I don't really know where they got that from, but it sounds good to me. And it's hard to see, but they're gluten and dairy free. So for people with very sensitive stomachs, that is a really great choice. I myself haven't tried them because they're kind of expensive, more than $2 a bar. They use rice nectar, natural crunchy peanut butter, and honey. So probably you could make something similar to this at home if that was something that you're inclined to do. They do have a version with caffeine, so the espresso chip has caffeine. The Cliff Bar, this was my go-to for many, many years. A lot of times even you can find them on sale for $1 a bar at Kroger. A lot of times they have that sale. So that was my go-to, and then there's my favorite on there. I don't see my favorite flavor, but they do have coconut flavor, which is really, really good. Key ingredients, again, they claim to be like something percent organic. So brown rice, syrup, rice crisps, organic roasted soybeans, organic soy flour. They do have some versions that contain caffeine. Couldn't find online how much caffeine they contain. I don't think it's a lot. I want to say it's like 35 milligrams. I used to eat the full mint chocolate all the time, but then I tried to decrease my caffeine intake. So, but they are good. They seem to settle well with my stomach, and that has been my go-to for many years. Hammer Nutrition Bar. I've actually never had a Hammer Nutrition Bar, and for the longest time I really didn't know they made a nutrition bar. They have a couple of different flavors. They're kind of expensive at $2.50 a bar. They use organic almond butter, organic date paste, and organic agave nectar. So that sounds pretty yummy to me. So a lot of natural ingredients in there. So probably easily digestible. It doesn't sound as processed. So that would certainly be a good one to try, except it is a little bit pricey. So the Power Bar Fruit Smoothie Bar. So there's a bunch of different Power Bars. So this is like their regular performance energy bar. But they also had a fruit smoothie line, which was one that my dad tried for a while because they do taste pretty good. They're like $28 for 12 bars. Again, they have this strange ingredient list for Power Bar bars. Do seem to have a little bit more processed ingredients. Evaporated cane juice, dried fruit blend, sugar, rice flour, and fruit paste. They're pretty good though. And then their Power Bar Performance Bar, which the really nice thing about these is you can find them in most gas stations. So even if you're in a small town racing, I have actually found Cliff Bars in gas stations before too. So a lot of times when I was at small races, we did a race in Caseville a couple of years ago. I don't know if anybody knows where Caseville is, but it's way up in the there's like one tiny little mom and pop grocery store, and they didn't even have power bars. But I went to a gas station, and they had power bars and Cliff Bars. So keep that one in your tool bag. A lot of times gas stations will have power bars and Cliff Bars. I think you can find them cheaper than $18 for 12 bars at the grocery stores, but they are more expensive if you buy them at gas stations. Organic evaporated cane juice syrup, maltodextrin, fructose, and dextrose. So, as opposed to the smoothie version, which has like the fruit paste and stuff like that, I like the ingredients in the power bar a little bit more, just a regular power bar. So, they have some nice forms of sugar. And those always seem to sit well with my stomach, so that was a good one. And you can find that gas station, so.
That's always important.
The Snickers Marathon Bar, you know, you can actually find these at a lot of gas stations too. I don't know if I would recommend a Snickers Marathon Bar, unless you're really struggling with other flavors. I think my dad did find this at a gas station once and then used it before a race, and that's how he found out he liked it. They're about $1 a bar, and they have a lot of really sugary ingredients, like caramel is their #1 ingredient listed. So that's probably why he likes it. I think you have like your high fructose corn syrup, but if it tastes good and it settles well, more power to you. The Honey Stinger waffle, so they're pretty expensive, and then you'll see on the next page with the comparison, they don't have as many calories as some of the other bars. They are really good. I've had one, not for training, but at Expo. I must eat a lot at Expo, but they are pretty good. And it's kind of a cool idea, I think. They do this wheat flour, they use palm fruit oil, that's supposed to be rice, R-I-C-E, syrup, sugar, and honey. So they make a little waffle and they put honey between it, and it's pretty tasty, and I liked it. But you can see in the comparison, a lot of these have well over 200 calories, and the Honey Stinger has 160 calories. So. And then for this chart, I did put in fat, because a lot of times the more fatty bars can upset my stomach. So like your bone breaker, because it does have the peanut butter in it, it's going to be more fatty. But because it is mostly from peanut butter, I think most people's stomachs don't get as upset with fat from peanut butter. So the Cliff Bar was my go-to. Hammer Bar has almond butter in it, so it's going to be a little bit higher. And then the Power Bars are a little bit lower. Snickers Marathon Bar, about in the middle, and then the Honey Stinger is about in the middle. Carbs, so I like the Cliff Bar, and I got 44 grams of carbs from that. The Power Bars also have a good number of carbs. These are a little bit lower. Sugar, again, I have a sugar problem at 23 grams, but Power Bars also had a good amount of sugar. And before a race, you know, it's really not a bad thing to be taking in sugar. Maybe not the best thing for me to have been doing every single day before training, but if you're working out, not as big of a deal. Just don't like making it your breakfast when you're about to go to work and sit on your butt for a while. Sodium, good thing to have. I was kind of surprised that Hammer Bar really didn't have much sodium or potassium. So, especially if you're about to do a swim in the jacuzzi that's known as the live sea pool, I'd look for more sodium. Power Bar, Snickers Marathon Bar, they both had a good amount of sodium, potassium, and there's not any in the Honey Stinger, pretty low sodium in that one too. And then protein. It is nice to have protein with your bar before workouts. So protein with your carb is going to make it a little bit more slowly digested, so you'll get a little bit more sustained energy from that. So I like right around 10 grams of protein. Snickers Marathon had 13 grams. I don't know if I don't think caramel has protein in it, but maybe it's the peanuts. So I'd find what protein to carb ratio works best for you and kind of go from there. So, all right. Any questions about bars, gels, chews, or fluids? And we're going to talk about supplements.
I can tell you what inverted sugar is.
All right. What is inverted sugar?
They take the sucrose and they split it into the fructose and glucose so that it doesn't crystallize when you make gels.
Interesting.
It's a syrup.
So a form of syrup.
Yeah.
You didn't cover the little jelly beans.
Oh, the sport beans. Those are really good, though.
Because they tend to give me an upset stomach, whereas the chomps don't. I was waiting to kind of see what the differences were. So I'll look it up.
All right.
Compare
Yeah.
it to
I'm
your chart and see what's different.
not sure what the differences are off the top of my head. Some people do get upset with them. My dad likes to carry them on long runs because he thinks they're
I like
really
them, but
tasty.
yeah, they are.
And I found like when I eat them, they don't make me feel like I'm suffocating as much. But I also really don't eat food when I bike or run. I like to suck down my food with gels. So the chewing thing when I'm working out, it doesn't work for me. So again, it's trying things and see what you like. And the nice thing with beans, I think you can still find them at Meijer. Last time I looked, so that can be a good option. But really do be careful because they are kind of coming from a candy, which could be why they're upsetting the stomach. So, other questions?
What about the kind bars, fruit and nuts? Have you had any experience?
Those I've used not before workouts. I'm not sure how much protein that they have, but it's more of like, that's a snack bar that I like using because it is more natural with the ingredients in it because it is like you can see the whole nuts in it. But as far as like a before workout type of bar, I'm not sure because it is a lot of things that your body has to break down. I know it's kind of gross, like the bars are already pretty broken down because they're kind of soft and chewy. So I think that makes it a little bit easier on the stomach.
Right, I was gonna, so the difference being is that you might be able to do that in, like you said, a whole food option is, it's a little bit more of a whole food. But when we're talking about, I think we tried to focus on things that are made specifically to consume while working out because they are already in a more base formula so that your body can use it for instant energy versus having to try and break it down. Because one of the things that happens is that your body diverts blood flow away from your GI tract and your stomach when you're working out because your muscles and your heart are using it. They're using the blood flow into energy for an oxygen consumption, so it doesn't go to your gut. So if you eat a food that takes a lot of digestion, try to do it during a workout, you're going to get gastric upset. So that's why it's a good idea to try, and that's why they make these kind of foods that are already broken down so your body can utilize that energy as quickly as possible without working very hard at it.
Yeah,
I think that's a good point
something
too, like
that.
don't have a handful of almonds right before the race, even though that's natural or whatever, because that's not gonna help you out.
And it's not, well, and yeah, there's fat and protein in that. And so if you notice over and over, we're talking carbs, carbs, carbs. Carbs give you energy. So for those of us who were at last week's lecture, carbs is what you need for energy. Now you do need some fats, and it's always great to take in some protein especially when you start going longer distances. You need to start thinking about protein getting added in. But really, when we're talking about fuel while we're working out, carbs is really one of your biggest considerations because that's where your energy is coming from.
Perfect. All right, other questions? Okay. So, supplements, caffeine. I've talked about this on quite a bit already. So caffeine is performance enhancing, but only if the quantity is larger what you have on a day-to-day basis, which is one of the reasons why I work so hard to quit my 4 to 6 bottles of Mountain Dew a day habit. I'd have to take it a lot. I would literally take caffeine pills before races because that's how much I would need to surpass the Mountain Dew that I have daily. So studies have shown that caffeine reduces the rate of perceived exertion, and others have shown that it has no effect. But overall, across the board, they say it is caffeine, or that it is performance enhancing. It could have a negative impact on your immune health. So another reason not to have a ton of caffeine every single day. So be cautious with it. And this one's important for racing nationals. Large amounts of caffeine are prohibited, and if you're drug tested and found to have higher than allowable levels of caffeine, you will be disqualified. So it's best to caffeine load 15 to 50 minutes prior to an event, and your peak blood levels are reached at 45 to 60 minutes after ingestion. So a note to long distance racing, this means that if you take it before the race and only before the race, well, you're going to feel awesome in the swim, and then you'll crash. So it's something to keep in mind. So maybe for long distance racing, if you're going to take it before, make sure you continue taking it during the race, or save it and take caffeine in later.
And if you're doing caffeine during a race, especially because you're not going to be drinking a pop, so you're probably going to pop a pill, you have to practice with this. Again, I know Sam said over and over, practice your nutrition, because I have a huge caffeine habit, and doing longer distance racing, have tried caffeine pills, and it rips my gut up horribly. So you really have to think about the choices you're making
Yeah.
in practice.
And remember, if you're decreasing your amount of caffeine during the week, so I quit my caffeine habit like 4 or 5 weeks ago, and then last weekend at training camp they introduced a new product to us called eBoost, which is basically like a natural form of Red Bull or whatever. So I was like, yes, eBoost, caffeine, like I'm feeling tired. I took the entire bottle. Literally felt like my heart was going to explode. So really do be careful and don't take a ton of caffeine. So I'll try to get those links sent to you guys. Those are the resources.
We don't
I'm
type
sure
it.
you really
I'm
don't
typing
want to
that
type that
right
one in.
now.
That one's
Start
really
on by the end of the day.
Salt loading. Any questions about caffeine? I know I've talked about it a bunch, and there will be a couple more points on caffeine later. Okay, so I'll talk. So these are some salt loading products. These are just the ones that I found on trisports.com. Again, I don't really salt load because I do short distances and I use an electrolyte drink, but this is important for long distance racing. So some of the popular products that I found were these salt sticks. So there's salt stick caps and salt sticks plus. And the plus has, I don't really know why it's plus, because it looks like it actually has less stuff. So I don't know. Look into your salt products before you buy them, and look at costs.
I'm good. It's good.
Oh yeah, it's caffeinated.
You can read that?
Because you can go
It's impressive. So some more are your Succeed salt caps. Those have a lot of sodium at 341. And then your Thermalite Metasalt. I'm sure there are a ton of other salt products or electrolyte capsules out there. So just make sure you're looking carefully into the ingredients and the price. So salt loading, so these are some research findings. So the oral salt supplementation during ultra endurance is an article that was published in the Clinical Journal of Sport Medicine. And sodium ingestion was associated with a decrease in weight loss during race. So they talk about weight loss during Ironmans as in like how much fluid is one of the big parts that leads to the weight loss. So if you're using this sodium or the salt caps, you're going to retain more of your water. So less weight loss, less dehydration. It wasn't necessary to prevent the development of hyponatremia. So it's not that you're trying to prevent hyponatremia, it's that you're trying to prevent dehydration.
Hyponatremia is low sodium, by the way.
Sorry, thank you. And there was no evidence that sodium ingestion significantly influenced changes in sodium more than fluid replacement alone. So I think really the takeaway from that, and I'm sure Kathy knows more about this than I do since she's long distance racing, is either do electrolytes with sodium or salt caps. But I think it is difficult to replace the amount of sodium that, or to take in the amount of sodium that you will want in long distance racing by drinking. And it's going to be a lot of fluid, and that's a lot of fluid sloshing around in your belly. So the most efficient way to do it would be with a salt cap. So things to remember and things to practice. Salt loading, this is from USA Triathlon. And hyponatremia can occur, and it can be due to overconsumption of fluid. So if you're drinking too much fluid, you're going to thin out the amount of salt. So you only have so many salt particles. Then if you keep taking in water without any sodium replacement, you're going to thin that sodium out, and then you're going to get hyponatremia. So especially if you're a high salty sweater, easy test when you're sweating, lick your own. It's gross, don't do it in public. To see if you're a really salty sweater.
Ask your dog.
Yeah. Or sometimes, like after you finish a long workout and like the sweat has dried, like you notice white patches on your face. So you're a high salt sweater, replace it, but don't overconsume water. Water will not replace your sodium, it will make your sodium lower. So the total sodium that you lose during exercise is from your sweat, the amount that you sweat, and the number of hours that you're sweating for. So don't overhydrate with just water. Keep up with your sodium losses with electrolyte drinks or salt capsules.
So what is the distance that you really start needing to worry about salt replacement?
If it's a really hot day, I think that's something to worry about even in an Olympic. Like if I'm racing an Olympic race in Texas and it's 90 degrees out and I'm a salty sweater, I'm definitely going to have to replace salt. So it can happen in any distance, but in Ironman, it's pretty much something that across the board you will always have to worry about.
And I think that's perfect. If you're if moderate weather,
What she said.
half and fulls, but yeah, if you're talking hot weather, absolutely.
Yeah.
An Olympic distance. And even sprint distance, I mean, if you know it's gonna be 95 degrees, I wouldn't just drink water the day before. I would consider a G2 if you don't want the calories, or Gatorade if you don't mind the calories, leading in the days up to it, to make sure that before you even go into the race, that you're going with an adequate sodium level.
Because remember, when you're working out during the week, especially if you swim in a very hot pool, you are losing sodium all week and maybe not sufficiently replacing it. So you need to focus on before the race sufficiently replacing it, and then during the race getting enough so that you might already be in a hole. So replace it before the race and replace it during the race. And then I'll get that link to you. That was a pretty good one too. So if you're racing or working out, make sure to replace your sodium, whether with an electrolyte drink or salt tablets, especially if you are a salty sweater. So these are the water rules to be aware of for races like Age Group Nationals. So there are a few races where there is random drug testing. Why it's random, I don't know. I think they should just test the winners, but whatever. Because I didn't win and I got tested, but anyway. So this is just a quick summary. The full list of what's being tested for you can find at USADA. But really they're looking for EPO. We should all know about EPO from Lance Armstrong. But it increases your red blood cell production. And a quick note about that, because I do believe that there is doping going on in triathlon. We'd be pretty naive to say there's no doping going on in triathlon. EPO is deadly, and so is taking your own blood out, oxygenating it, and putting it back in, because your blood will get too thick. And they've actually had cyclists who have died, very young cyclists who have died from heart attacks because their blood is too thick. So it's really not a good option, and for what? It's not worth it. They're also looking for human growth hormone, which will rebuild muscle, and then super high levels of caffeine. It is really hard to reach those super high levels of caffeine. I think I have it in here later, or you can see it on the website, but basically you have to take like 5 caffeine pills, which have like 200 milligrams of caffeine each. Yeah. So that is something that's not really to be worried about. But some medications that are banned, so for asthma, people with asthma, which is myself included, there are some inhaled steroids that are banned. So you've probably seen the commercials, Advair, Symbicort, and Q-Bar have steroids in it. But if you look on their website, they'll tell you which ones are allowed. Symbicort is one of the ones allowed, so that's what I had to switch to for my inhaler. But all oral steroids are banned. So even if you're taking prednisone or commonly like the Medrol dose pack for poison ivy, something like that, banned. Diuretic pills, which are also water pills, are also banned. These can be found in a lot of medications over the counter for menstrual pain. So there's a lot of bloating, sorry guys, during menstrual cycle. So a lot of women will take these pills and not realize they have diuretics in it. I think this is what happened to Lindsey Vonn, or she claimed that's what happened. So just be aware of that. Insulin is also banned, but if you're like a type 1 diabetic or even a type 2 and you require insulin, you have to file for a TUE. And we'll get into what a TUE is in a second. Stimulants are banned at higher levels, includes caffeine and pseudoephedrine. So Sudafed over the counter, or it's the one that you have to get from the pharmacist. So you have to go to a pharmacy to get it. That is also banned. So be aware of what's in your cold medicine. And it's 150 micrograms per day for the Sudafed, I believe. The caffeine is much higher. And all narcotic painkillers are banned. So don't be popping oxys before the race. So if you go to USADA or USADA.org and you enter your medications, they'll tell you which ones are allowed and which ones are not. They'll tell you, even for things like inhalers, the puffers, they'll tell you how much is allowed and when you're over the limit. Again, this is really only to worry about for things where they are going to be drug testing. And dietary supplements are not regulated. So a lot of times they contain banned substances that aren't listed on the bottle. We've heard plenty of athletes saying that they took, I took this supplement, I didn't know whether they knew it or not, or whether they were taking it, I don't know. But supplements are not regulated. So try to use reputable supplements and be careful. So even with protein powders, look for the ones that show that they've been tested for banned substances. I believe Muscle Milk is one of the ones that's tested. And there's a couple other forms of protein powder that you can find at Better Health Store that have been tested. All right, so TUE is a therapeutic use exemption. So this allows an athlete with a legitimate medical need for an otherwise prohibited substance, as long as they're approved. There's an emergency process to apply for a TUE if something happens, like a major asthma attack 10 days before your first professional race, and you need steroids. So you go to that happened to me. Yeah. You go to USADA's website and go through an application process, and you have to fax all this crazy. I think my application ended up being 40 pages long. Because it was the application and then all your medical records, and you have to have a letter from your doctor saying why you need them, and it's crazy. And then it goes before council, and then the council decides on it. And the frustrating thing is the council are not practicing physicians; they're scientists, which really frustrates me because I'm like, well, they're not treating people with asthma, but they're super nice though, and it was a very stressful process for me. But they have really nice people there who kind of helped me through it and walked me through it. And I did get the TUE and was holding carefully to my paperwork as I went down to my race. But so some of you are probably wondering, will you really get drug tested? There is a small chance of being drug tested at age group nationals or other national races, and it does happen. It happened to me in 2013, and it totally sucked. So it's not fun. You cross the finish line, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just finished this race, it's great. And then someone walks up to you with a clipboard, and you have to follow them. Do not miss go, do not collect $200, you have to go straight to their tent. Once there, they ask you for your ID. I don't know how many people race with their ID. I don't even know where I put it. So, but they kind of realize that, and so it's not a big issue that you don't have your ID. Then you have to fill out all this paperwork, clear all your medications, and then once the paperwork's done, it's time for the urine sample. So this is where it gets really awkward. Really, like,
There are with.
really awkward. So you're escorted by an official of the same sex, that's nice, into a porta potty and asked to remove your entire uniform so they can examine everything to make sure you didn't just race with a bag of urine or something. I really don't know. But you have to remove your entire uniform, and they look.
And they look.
They look. And this is my favorite picture right here of them watching kids the urine. So then you have to give 90 milliliters of urine. And that's a lot, considering you just raced for over 2 hours. And they watch you as you urinate too. And if you can't get 90 milliliters, then you have to walk around their stupid tent and drink like 5 bottles of water until you can provide 90 milliliters. Then you must pour your sample into 2 separate glass bottles. Don't spill. You have to give more if you spill. Then you seal the bottles and put them back into the box. Now you can go back to your friends and family and finally celebrate the race. Depending on whether or not you had to go to the bathroom, really didn't. So I think I drank like 3 bottles of water. It took hours. My process took 1.5 hours and 3 trips to the porta potty.
Wow.
With the official examining every time. Like, really, would you think I did?
Take your clothes off every time? Oh,
Yep, entire uniform every single time.
How do you get 2 people in a porta potty?
They use like the handicap side ones, the bigger ones.
I have a hard time changing my mind in one of those. let
It's
alone
still
get
like,
changed.
it's like this big.
Did they
So
tell
like
your
they're
family where you
basically
were?
right on top of you.
Did they tell your family where you were, or were they like clueless
No,
about what happened to
no.
you?
I mean, luckily my husband finished before me, so he was there at the finish line. And you know, the person he's like, "Can I walk with her for a little bit?" And she's like, "Well, you can walk, but then you can't come within so many meters of the tent." I'm like, so I had to sit in this tent by myself with those other poor staff triathletes who also got pulled into the tent, and we're all complaining about having to like chug this much water, and I don't even want to know what that did to my sodium levels, besides plummeting them as I chugged pure water. So it was not a fun process. And then I'm like thinking about everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, did I have too much caffeine? Because I still have caffeine problem. I'm like, what if my asthma medicine is banned? And I looked it up like 5 times and it wasn't. What if I had too many puffers? Like, so it's all going through your mind. And of course, nobody tells you right away if you pass or not. It has to go to the labs. Then they send you a letter like a couple weeks later. So it was a
Then you can
miserable
celebrate your race.
process.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Yeah, then you can celebrate.
Is it just a random number that they decided?
As far as I know, it is random because I'm trying to remember I finished 12 overall, and I was tested, but I don't think as far as I know, the winner wasn't tested, so I'm
Like the
pretty sure it's
TSA.
random. Yeah.
Kind of random.
In reality, you had to take 5 glasses of water, diluted everything in your system so badly that nothing's going to test for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a crappy process. It doesn't, honestly, I'd much rather give blood
I
after
was
a
gonna say, they
race.
should just go do blood draw. That
I
was
wish
like
like,
30
I wish they
seconds.
gave me the option, like you could either have me stare at you while you urinate into a porta potty, or I could take a couple miles of blood. I would have been like, do it.
Right, I would too.
That would be so much.
It can't be diluted.
That makes sense to me,
Yeah,
but
just don't take
but I'm sure it costs more money and they have to have people trained to draw blood and all the needles and everything.
There's a lot of training in watching someone pee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty high level.
No, you just have to stare and make sure there's no baggage anywhere.
Look professional.
So that is drug testing. It does happen. So that was supplements and kind of some drug testing rules. We have about 20 minutes to go through different hydration systems. Does anyone have any questions about drug testing, supplements, any of that? I know it was kind of quick. Oh, and we have some other, wait, there's more. Yeah, hydration system. So if there's no questions, we'll go ahead and get started. So front bottles. So really in this I listed where I could find it. So it's the bottle name, got pictures of the bottles, the price, the capacity, and when I could find it, the weight. A lot of them don't have the weight listed, but it also depends on like what kind of device you're using to attach it to your bike. My dad torments me relentlessly because I use rubber bands no matter what, even if they're like, this carrier doesn't need rubber bands. No, I rubber band them. So this is the Profile Design Aero HC system. My dad and my husband just got this one. One of the nice things is it doesn't have splashback. That's what I call it. I don't know if you guys have experienced, you hit a bump and you have an air bottle and it gives you a little shower. It's not enjoyable, and then you're like sticky and gross, and it makes your body sticky and gross. So this one doesn't have as much splashback, but this little piece right here does have a flap where you can refill from your down tube bottle. So it is expensive at $75, but no splashback is kind of worth it. The Profile Design Aquacell dual chamber hydration system, cheaper, holds 27 in the main chamber and 17 ounces in the secondary chamber, so you get 24 ounces. It's kind of heavy, but for longer racing, that'd be an option. These are the Profile Designs, Aqualite and the Triathlon Aero. So the Aqualite's smaller, doesn't hold as much, it'd be better for short racing. And the Aero is just bigger, has about 10 more ounces, so it's heavier. When I started racing these, I used both of these at times. They only cost $20, and they go on with this weird plastic system and rubber bands. Well, you don't have to use rubber bands, I use rubber bands. But the problem is you can kind of see there's this little flap there. That never really seemed to do anything. Like the originals, before they had a cap, had just a yellow sponge, and the yellow sponge was cracked. And you always lost the yellow sponge in your first race, and it'd just fly out, and then you'd get a full bottle of water in the face. So I ended up getting so frustrated with mine, I just put electrical tape over it. So, but if you do have a yellow sponge and you lose your yellow sponge, there's like these rough scrubber sponges you can find at Meijer, and I replaced mine with that, and they actually stay in the bottle much better. So the yellow sponges are replaceable, and I'll go back on the course and search for your yellow sponge, because there will probably be 20 yellow sponges on the course. Another front bottle is the Speed Fill A2 Aero mounting system. So at $60 a mounting system, it's not included, but it uses your own water bottle and then kind of puts this top on it. Instead of the screw-on lid, it puts that top on it. I haven't used it. It looks kind of clunky to me, but I guess it would be nice to use your own water bottle and be able to take it off and clean it easier. The Tour Hands Aero bottle is the one that I use now because of the team sponsorship. Again, it's got this flap here where you can refill it. It also has another cap that you can put on that has no opening in it. One thing, if you get this one, is this stupid little Aero straw plastic thing. I don't really know what the point of an Aero straw cover is, but it always comes off. So I got mad at it one day and I super glued it. So it doesn't come off anymore. And then I also got frustrated with the flap, and I also electrical taped that one. I think the theme is I don't have much patience with air models.
So do you have a hard time sucking? The point is that it's supposed to let oxygen in, so when you suck out.
No. Well, it's not like an airtight electrical tape job, but it was just one day when I was mad and I taped it, and whatever. So, but it ended up working out pretty well. So they do have a smaller capacity and a larger capacity for the tour hands. And they are kind of expensive. I think this is just the price for the bottle, and then you have to get the mounting system. Which the mounting system, you can kind of see it better here. It's this plastic wraparound, and then a Velcro goes right there. It still bounces and rattles on these lovely Michigan roads, so I would abandon. I heard banned everything.
Electrical tape.
So,
Kinda got it.
electrical tape.
You kind of got a triathlete engineering degree.
Yeah, I'm like, I customize everything. That's what I think. So these are the X-Lab torpedo systems. They are pretty expensive, but I've heard they don't have as much splash back. They do have a little portal for putting more for refilling, and a cool little straw. So I don't think you would really get much splash back. And then they have a mounting system that comes so you can put your computer on it. Although I don't know if I'd like be able to see it or not for the computer if you get that great view of it. I wear a GPS watch anyway, so. But it's kind of a cool system. So down tube systems. I forgot the exact number, but my dad read in Triathlete magazine after like wind tunnel testing that over a 40K race, so an Olympic, if you have an aero down tube system versus a regular round bottle, you save like 7 seconds. So I actually use a regular water bottle. Maybe I'll be cool this year and get a down tube aero bottle, but they're definitely more expensive, and I'm always losing water bottles, so if I lost one, I'd be upset. So Tour Hands makes one. I'm not really sure what this little top thing is. Because I have a felt, and mine came with one of these air bottles, but you have to cut off the top or something. I don't know. So it's in a box somewhere. I never ended up using it. And just put a cage on mine. Because it's this weird twisty top thing, and then it doesn't attach, so I feel like I'd lose it. Then I'd have no bottle. So the Profile Design one has a regular top, which I appreciate. So I think that's a good option. And I think I only have these other piece, but Specialized does make one also. Not sure what the price is, but definitely watch on the price. I mean, this Profile Design one is $40. You've got the X-Lab one for $63 and the Speed Fill for $100. So definitely be aware of prices. The X-Lab I think, looks pretty similar to the Profile, so I'd probably just go with Profile Design. The Speed Fill one does have tubing that goes into the aero bar, so you don't have to reach down for the bottle. I don't know, if you have an aero bottle, probably be more convenient to have a short straw. I'm not sure about like how much sucking power you have to use on that really long straw. You're not have a degree in physics, so.
I have a Speed Fill on my bike, and I like it, but it does, you do have to suck it pretty hard. So I suck.
Pretty hard.
Very hard. I'm not sure why that's funny. Can anybody explain why that's funny?
Did not foresee that. Yeah, so the tubing you have to suck harder on.
However, it is nice to have the 40 ounces of capacity in that single bottle. So.
And so if you can suck hard,
you can suck a lot too.
So the Speed Fill also has tubing and uses your own water bottle. It's kind of expensive. For this one, I don't think I'd go with the Speed Fill system. I mean, honestly, you're using a round water bottle anyway. The only benefit is you have tubing. So maybe if you're not uncomfortable reaching down, honestly, if you're not uncomfortable reaching down to your water bottle, I promise if you practice it during a couple of rides, you will become comfortable. It comes quicker than you think. But I mean, if you're uncomfortable with it, I'm right there with you. I don't like using my left hand. I will only use my right. I will even cross over and take off this shoe strap with my right hand because I do not like using my left hand. So. Then you can get carbon water bottle cages. I don't know if it's really worth it. They cost a lot of money. I don't think they really save you that much weight. Then you can be like, I have carbon water bottle cage. Everything on my bike is carbon. So if that is something that's important to you, something that's important to my husband, so he likes to be cool rather than fast. It's fine with me. So Zip makes a pretty pricey one at $60. I found some pretty cheap ones on Bike Match bar. So if you just want to throw a cheap carbon cage on there, I'd go search on Buck Nash Bar and you can find some good ones there. Again, the X-Leg Torpedo is another full carbon one that costs $55. Why not just buy an Aero bottle? So, rear cages. I know nothing about rear cages. I do not have a rear cage. I thought about getting one for long rides, but my longest rides are like 3 hours. So, and then I just make my dad carry a bag with my blow-up equipment in it. So that works out pretty well for me. So these are just a couple of different cages that I found on trisports.com. So there's the X-Lab Mini Wing, $55. It can hold 2 water bottle cages, so you have to attach your own cages, and can carry a tire of tubes in the mini bag. They have a lot of different wings. So there's the Sonic Wing, which only works with Cervelos. So their turbo wing hydration system, it comes with water bottle cages, and then you can add the Sonic nut to hold your CO2 inflator and the bag. So it doesn't come with the bag, just the cages. So I would say, like, at least when I was researching these, that's one thing I would really look into is they have pictures of all this cool stuff and stuff poking out everywhere. Look into what it actually comes with, because sometimes it's just a wing and then you have to attach your own water bottle cages, your own bag, or buy accessories to hold those things. So that's something I'd be aware of when looking at prices. Super Wing Basic, there's places for your own cages again and your own CO2 mount, and it is available in aluminum for $20 less. The X-Lab Delta, it attaches to the saddle rail, and you can bring 1 water bottle. It's also available in all these different forms if you have an animal saddle, which I have. So just some different things to look into. A lot of times if you have more like the specialized saddle, like an Adamo or a Cervelo bike, you're going to have to look a little bit more carefully for what wings you get. Carbon Sonic, again, only for Cervelos. And then the Carbon Wing 400i, you mount a water bottle cage on each side, so 2 water bottles. And then a couple of choices for CO2 cartridges and straps for a bag. So bring your own bag again. Profile Design Aqua Wrap, 2 water bottle cages, and CO2 mounting brackets. So it does come with all those things. So I did find that Profile Design stuff overall seems to be a lot cheaper. Profile Design RMS rear hydration, aluminum cage that fits 1 water bottle, and a CO2 mounting bracket. The Profile RM1 system with a CO2 mount, 2 water bottle cages, and a CO2 mounting bracket. So that's a pretty good one for the price, I think. You get 2 water bottles, not bad. Then Speedfill has a couple of systems. You can use dual or single water bottle cage mounts if you want 1 or 2 water bottles. They have a CO2 cartridge mounts and Velcro straps for your tubes and tires. Oh, that was it. So I don't know if anyone has a wing or a rear mounting system that they prefer or one that they found more convenient. Again, I don't use them, so I really don't know much about them.
Steve, do you have a rear mounting?
Yeah, I've got that X-Lab.
Do you like it?
Mini wing. It's good for storing. You know, I mean, you can reach and back and get it easily. It was hard to mount on the seat. You know, it was pretty difficult. It works fine. I don't have anything on my down tube.
I got a system that came with my bike, so I'm not sure what it is, but the water bottle stand very straight up and down. And so if I've got a tall water bottle like we just got for our team, I have a hard time swinging my leg over. So I was thinking of preferring to get one that actually was
a little more tilted.
That's interesting.
Does anyone else have any experience?
Yeah.
We know that, but I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So you were saying you each have 1 bottle of water and 1 bottle of like boo-boo or something.
Mhm.
So do you put your water in the one with some of the aero bars and the electrolytes in the down?
I start out with electrolytes in my bottle because sometimes, like, if it's cold out, I will find that I come back and transition and the bottle in my down tube is full. So I'll always put the electrolytes in my front bottle so that I can kind of front load those, give my stomach a little time before I get on the run. Again, my stomach's sensitive. Unfortunately, that does mean my bike gets covered in crap every time. And I was working with Bike Works last season, and every time I bring it in, John would give me a hard time because our bike was disgusted. So you should probably clean your bike after every ride with one of those if it's in there. If I'm just long riding, I will always put water in the front bottle and my electrolytes in the down tube because I just don't feel like being sticky for a long ride. In triathlon, it's kind of different because I think you're sticky, wet, and gross the entire race. So.
I agree 100%, especially, I have the same bottle with the yellow.
Yeah, the yellow sponge.
The yellow sponge, and you hit a bump and that sprays out the top no matter what happens, and so it'll be on your legs, on your shoes, on everything, so I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try to get through. I like that one. I think that's what Jordan said. So race day nutrition, I'll try to kind of go through this a little bit quicker because I think we're running out of time. So the race is 2 hours or longer. There's benefit to carb loading and being well hydrated. Pre-race breakfast is really the key to fully stocked muscles. So breakfast is more important than dinner. And this is all from Kit Taylor. If you taper prior races, you likely will have a good store of glycogen. So you don't need to eat 4 bowls of pasta. So don't eat like till you feel like your stomach's getting swollen. Stop. The psychology of food for the night before is far more powerful than the actual meal. So meet general nutrition guidelines, but go for what you feel confident with and what settles well with you. Aim to consume carbs and some lean protein. Stay away from fat. Don't try anything new. So again, make sure you have a plan B. Sometimes when you're out in the boondocks racing, there's not a lot of restaurants or a lot of choices. So tips for long distance racing from Ironman: carb load like a pro. Begin carb loading at lunchtime 2 days before the race and include things like white bread, which you wouldn't normally have, but before the race those are good. Your main carb load will take place at breakfast the day before the race and finish by 9 a.m. at the latest. I think maybe that was supposed to be 9 a.m. I'll look at that again. Finish your breakfast before 9 a.m. and then taper your meals for the rest of the day. So the day before the race, breakfast is your biggest meal. Dinner should be small, so again, you really don't need to eat 4 bowls of pasta. Eat carb-rich snacks like pretzels. Pretzels are also good because of the sodium content. And then finish early with a light dinner. Low in fat and low in fiber. So not as many fruits and vegetables because of the stomach effect and GI effect the day before. And that's just kind of a formula to aim for with carbs, 10 times your body weight in kilograms of carbs. Cut caffeine. Try to avoid caffeine during race week to increase your sensitivity. And then their recommendation was don't consume caffeine until 2 to 3 hours into your race, since it does wear off, and you can get a crash when you're coming down from caffeine. Or just make sure that you're always keeping it in. Put some carbs in your bottles. 0.6 grams of carbs per hour per pound of body weight on the bike. For the run, 0.3 grams of carb. If I ever went long distance, that's something I'd have to get over, because obviously you are going to have to eat on the run. Sodium content needs to be at least 8 milligrams per gram of carb. Again, minimal fat, protein, and fiber. Those things are more difficult for your stomach to digest, and with the blood flow diverted away from your stomach, you're going to end up with an upset stomach. Race morning breakfast. Eat 3.5 hours before the start of the race. That's a really early morning, but that's when it's best. Between 110 and 180 grams of carbs, depending on your body size, and very little fat and fiber. So one idea that they had was 2.5 cups of applesauce, a scoop of whey protein, a bottle of sport drink, and a banana. I prefer to try to get real food on race morning, so try to aim for some of the same ideas. Sodium, don't underestimate your race day sodium needs. Most athletes need between 800 and 4,000 milligrams of sodium per hour. So especially if it's hot out, you can't replace all your lost sodium on race day. So hydrate properly leading up. Grab some salt pills.
And I want to drive that point home. So yes, you might be a person that loses 4,000 milligrams per hour. Don't try to take in 4,000 milligrams per hour. Your body cannot digest it, it can't absorb it, and you will get a horrible, horrible gut ache. So I just want to make sure that you're not like popping 10 salt tablets an hour trying to replenish that, because it won't work. So you have to go in prepared with an adequate amount of sodium and then replace a reasonable amount.
You will not keep up with the sodium loss. Don't bring like a salt shaker and start chugging the salt shaker. Not a good idea. Or a hot salt pail. So just try to get in some, as much as your body can handle, but don't overdo it. So salt insurance, carry extra sodium with you. So again, always have a plan B. So muscle twinge, stomach bloating, maybe try a sodium capsule, but also be aware that if you've already had like 10, you should probably take it easy on the salt. But also be easy on the water. So too much plain water increases your probability of the sloshy stomach because there's no sodium. So stick to sports drinks. And this I don't really know much about, but this is what they said in the article, pee on your bike. So,
On your bike?
twice.
That's what they say.
You can't say
Yes,
about that.
that's
On your bike.
common in half iron and full irons.
It is a thing.
Is if you don't want to stop. Now, there are potties, but if you don't want to stop and you are very serious about your racing, that you will see people go to the bathroom on their bike and then they'll take water and splash it down their front. If they do that in front of you, that's probably what they're doing. They splash some water on themselves.
People, not you.
Not me. I pee in the
Happy pee in the
transition.
It's a personal choice. Pacing. So nutrition plans will backfire if you, that should be mispaced, not misplaced. So start steady. And too much stress too early can really shut down your digestive system. So if you go out sprinting at the beginning of an Ironman, which I wouldn't recommend, all the blood is going to go straight to your muscles and away from your digestive tract. And it's very difficult for your body to say, oh, now we've slowed down, so I should probably digest some of this stuff. So pacing is important. And listen to your heart rate. So elevated during the later portions of the run. But I always race with a heart rate monitor, and I know even if I'm like, man, I really got to hit this pace, my heart rate gets above 165 on the bike. I'm like, nope, I got to slow it down because there's a run coming still. So pacing with heart rate is something that I've gotten into. So that's the article on that one. Dinner time. So now I've told you all these tips and suggestions. You're probably wondering, so what do I eat? There is no one-size-fits-all option, so go with something that you know that settles well. What I do. So the first few years of racing, I would always eat fish, and I was crazy about this. I would drive my parents and my husband's parents nuts. I'd always want tuna the night before race with potatoes. Since I've gone to spaghetti with meat sauce and bread, which is a lot easier, and I do like to make my own pasta when possible. So this is at Age Group Nationals last year. Pasta is really easy to do because all you need is a microwave. So last year, we went to Age Group Nationals and we brought a rubber mixing bowl and I put my pasta noodles in it, water, and I went downstairs to the lobby, put it in the microwave for 10 minutes, and then we brought ground beef and spaghetti sauce in a Tupperware container, microwaved that, I drained the water, and we used, then we put the sauce in, microwaved it, we had, that should be salad, not saddle, salad dishes from Subway, and we used those for plates. So that is us eating in our hotel room. So long distance racing, I really like that. I think that was my favorite. So these are some tips from an Ironman.com sports nutritionist. And I know we're basically out of time, but I'll try to say. So eat a quality diet. So these are kind of just some ideas for all around racing. Make sure that you aren't just eating all these lovely bars and gels that we just spent this entire time talking about. They have a time and a place. And it's not for your 10 o'clock snack, unless you're about to work out. But so make sure you eat lots of vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, and complex carbs. And I am just as much guilty of this crime as probably more so than anybody else in this room. Because I love shopping with coupons to save money so that we can pay for races. So I would maybe eat an apple a day. I would not recommend that at all. I would recommend eating fruits and vegetables with every meal. My husband and I have since switched our meals so that we are eating much more vegetables and fruits. And it's amazing how much of an impact that will have on your day-to-day training. So I really like chicken stir fry with brown rice. You get a lot of veggies, and you get your chicken, and you get your rice. It's a good meal. So avoid junk foods and fatty foods. So I try to avoid things that are super processed, like having one of these racing bars for every single meal. So if I'm out on the go, which I am a lot, I make my own snacks, like apple rice bars. Not that I'm advertising for anything, but there is some really good books by, I forgot the doctors, now I can't remember it, but it's portables is what it's, yeah. So that one has some really great ideas.
Feed zone portables.
Yeah, Feed Zone portables. They also have a cookbook. And the portables, that's where I got the apple rice bar recipe from. And it's your own snacks that you can take with you, as opposed to doing all processed foods. Also limit your intake of alcohol to 1 or 2 drinks per day, and try to keep caffeine to a minimum. Of course, so you don't really drink alcohol, but I don't really have tips with the caffeine part besides I would your soda stream though. Eat enough starting with breakfast. So breakfast is one of your biggest meals of the day. It's a common problem that endurance athletes fuel their workouts properly, but the rest of the day they don't really fuel very well because they're afraid of gaining weight. You do need to be eating at regular intervals to keep your metabolism up. Every 3 to 4 hours, you should at least be snacking on something healthy to keep your metabolism going. But just make sure that you're not like, okay, I did my workout, now I'm going to have a piece of lettuce for lunch. That's not going to help with your recovery either. So make sure that you're getting proteins. You can use guides like Clark's Sports Nutrition Guidebook to help estimate your daily energy needs if you're really all about counting calories, which I can't do. But one of their ideas, if you're doing, I think this is more for like really high intensity Ironman training, a breakfast of 800 to 1,000 calories. But that's also can be split like with what you're having before your workout, what you're having during your workout, what you're having after as your protein, and then breakfast. So one of the ways that my nutritionist put it to me is, you know, you eat so many calories in a day, but your workout fuel doesn't count because you could be working out 3 hours one day and an hour the next day. So you need to fuel differently. You can't do the same thing every single day when your workouts are different lengths. So workout fuel needs to be good, but it doesn't count towards those daily calories. So I like to throw in lots of protein with my breakfast. So I do a protein shake. So a lot of time I'm eating breakfast in the car on my way to work. And I like to do egg whites and peanut butter or almond butter. Practice your meal timing. You should have some type of nutrition approximately 1 to 3 hours before a training session. For sessions under 2 hours, you don't need as many carbohydrates. And that teaches your body to burn fat, which is really important for long distance racing because carbs are consumed quickly and then they're gone. So teaching your body to rely on fat is also important. For sessions longer than 3 hours, consume 200 to 300 grams of carb